Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to talk about Evelyn changes. And before we roll the tape, if you like this type of content, let me know through the comments and liking the video. And if you want more of this content, make sure to subscribe to see more coming in the future. Now with Evelyn and Astra release getting closer by the day, I know how difficult it is when you want an agent but don't have the polychromes for it. Today's sponsor lootbar.gg got some good news for you. Lootbar is gifting you guys a 15% discount to all Zenless Zone 0 top-ups through a link that will be in the description and pinned comments of this video. Let me quickly show you how insanely fast it is. Simply pick the pack you want, write your in-game UID, pick your server, and voila! As for safety wise, simply look at all the good reviews left by people all around the globe, on top of some popular YouTubers also using it, such as Rythm Shotgun, Tevat Times, and Tukaja. So if you're interested in topping up with a 15% discount, head over to my link and treat yourself or a friend. Thank you Lootbar for sponsoring this video and helping me throughout my journey on YouTube. Now it's time to roll the tape. Looking at the recent changes to Evelyn, it's clear that the adjustments weren't as harsh as some people might have feared. While she did take minor hits, she still seems to be a very strong character overall. The perception that she's heavily nerfed doesn't fully reflect her current power level. In fact, the damage reduction appears to be only around 2 to 3%, which can be very slightly depending on the squad composition you choose. For example, when you're pairing Evelyn with Lighter and Astra, we are able to reach an impressive 7.7 million DPR. A big factor contributing to this high damage output is Astra's crit damage buff. To briefly explain Astra's recent nerf, her original 65% damage buff has been reduced to 40%. While this is a noticeable change, it's not as impactful as it might seem at first. The key point to consider is that Astra now also provides crit damage buff. The calculations suggest the crit damage buff is 30%. Even though losing the original 65% damage buff is a significant adjustment, Astra's new crit damage buff compensates for a portion of that loss. As a result, the overall impact of her nerf isn't as dramatic as many initially assumed. So despite the changes, Evelyn and her team are still performing at a high level, showing that her strength isn't as compromised as people might think. With all these nerfs, let's test Evelyn with other squads, shall we? When pairing Evelyn with Koleda and Astra, the damage output dropped to 4.6 million. If you're wondering why there was such a noticeable decrease in damage, it's mainly due to the loss of Lighter buff. Without Lighter, we're left with only 20% damage bonus and 30% crit damage from Astra, in addition to the 24% from Astral Voice. While this squad does result in a lower overall damage output, it's not as bad as it might seem at first glance. The key factor here is that Koleda's value becomes much more apparent during chain attacks. When you're able to trigger chain attacks, Koleda's buffing potential increases significantly, which is in turn boosts Evelyn's damage output, so they said. This is particularly important for Evelyn's clear time, as the combination of Koleda's buff and chain attack, which is 70%, allows Evelyn to supposedly clear the boss before it recovers from the stun duration. Given that it's very unlikely for the boss to die within the stun duration, Koleda's contribution becomes even less valuable in speeding up the fight. So while the damage seems lower on paper, the synergy between Koleda's buffs and Evelyn's chain attack potentially gave hope for people with the setup. However, if this squad doesn't seem to work as well for you, or if you're not satisfied with the results, we can also consider replacing Koleda with Qingyi. Qingyi might offer a different set of advantages that could improve your overall damage output or team synergy, so it's worth experimenting with different combinations to see what fits best for your playstyle and team composition. When replacing Koleda with Qingyi, the damage output increased to 6.9 million DPR, which is a significant improvement. The damage maintained here is excellent, and the overall DPS is higher than usual. This boost is primarily due to the stun damage multiplier that Qingyi provides to anyone attacking the enemy, which increases DPS across the board. This alone demonstrates how well Qingyi performs compared to Koleda. The synergy between Qingyi and Evelyn, especially with the stun mechanic, clearly gives a noticeable advantage. Now, some players might be thinking, but what if I don't have Astra or I'm not planning to pull her? Well, I've also tested the setup using Nicole. With Nicole instead of Astra, the damage reached 5.5 million DPR. What stands out here is just how much of a difference Astra makes compared to Nicole. While the damage isn't as high as Astra, it still shows that Nicole can hold her own and isn't far behind. Even though Nicole's additional passive doesn't really apply in this specific setup, her additional ability still has some value. While it won't be beneficial for Evelyn directly, it's not entirely useless for the team, as it would still work for Nicole herself, but regardless, it's still great. Overall, despite the slight differences in performance with Astra and Nicole, both setups still deliver solid results. I genuinely think that this team composition with either Nicole or Astra is very playable. The difference in damage output is not as drastic enough to make either choice feel unviable, and both can contribute positively to your team's performance. Next, I tested Qingyi alongside Lighter, and the results were actually quite good. The squad reached 5.5 million DPR, and the damage looked promising, especially with how strong the damage multiplier on stunned enemies is. This setup also gave Evelyn a nice boost to her own personal damage output. However, would I recommend using this team composition? Honestly, no. While I was curious to see what kind of value the squad could provide, I was just curious and comparing it with Ellen's variation. I had hoped for higher damage, but theoretically the setup isn't terrible, and it does offer some solid performance. With that being said, it would still be more efficient to replace either Qingyi or Lighter with a more dedicated support to balance the team and optimize the damage. I also tested the squad with Lighter and Nicole, but the results weren't as strong as with Lighter and Qingyi. The performance was still decent, I'd say, with the squad reaching 5.3 million DPR. While that's not bad, there was definitely room for improvements. To boost the performance, I swapped Nicole out for Lucy, and the results were much better with Lucy in the squad. Damage increased to 6.5 million DPR. This change made the team feel more efficient and balanced, especially since Lucy provides solid off-field damage, which helped Evelyn recover the missing attack bonus that Astra usually provides. This made the setup feel much stronger overall. I'd say this team with Lucy included is not only reliable, but also easy to play, and in my opinion, it holds a lot of potential. To sum up my thoughts, Evelyn is still a fantastic character, and there's no need to compare her directly to other agents. When you consider the agents we've had in the past, I'm confident that Evelyn will remain very dominant, especially when it comes to killing enemies during a stun window. Her speed and explosive damage output gives her a clear edge over other characters like Jiuan, Ellen, or Harumasa in those situations. If I were to rank her within her squad, I'd say the most premium squad, which is Evelyn, Lighter, and Astra, is definitely the strongest, but I'd say Lighter and Lucy are really close as well. But overall, these are the calculations for now, and unless there's a new update, we have reached the end. I hope this video was helpful to you, and hopefully I've earned your subscription today. Let me know in the comment section if there's any other team you'd like me to test or calculate with Evelyn's next video. See you in the next one. We're gonna play